I spent an afternoon with my friend Gail Rebuck. It was a bank holiday in London, a lovely lazy day, and light poured through the huge first-floor windows of her Regent's Park home. 25 years ago, Gail was my first editor at Century. Now she's chairman of Random House in the UK. That day, she uttered 7 fateful words. "Leslie," she said, "you need to write a memoir." A memoir? "It'll be the bridge between the work you've done so far," she said, "and what you will do in the future. It's the only way you can reach people from the depths of who you are with what you've learned from all that's happened to you." "God, I could never write a memoir, Gail," I said. "I wouldn't know where to begin. Besides, if I were to tell the truth about my early life, first, no one would believe it, and then the tabloid press would have a field day with it." "So what?" she said. "We live in a tabloid world." "Look at it this way," she said. "That will only mean that more people will get to read it. Then maybe more lives will be transformed by what you've lived out and learned to heal." "God, I can't imagine being able to write such a book," I said. "Think about it," she said. "Okay." We left it at that. I went away with the words "no way" in my mind. I was in a mild state of shock, to tell the truth, that Gail could even make such a suggestion, given the strange nature of my past and the horrors that ensued from it. Horrors that I've spent much of my life trying to clear. But I'd made a promise to think about it, and I would. I decided to ask my 2 closest friends what they thought. "Gail thinks I should write a memoir," I told them. "The very thought of it terrifies me. I don't think I can. Besides, why should I go back and unearth all the traumas to tell my story? I'm not even sure I'd survive the process. What do you think?" The response from each of them was immediate and clear. "Do it." 2 weeks later, after a lot of soul-searching, I decided that these 3 people, for whom I had much respect and affection, were right. I rang Gail. "You're right about my writing that book," I said. "I want to call it Love Affair." Originally, I thought rather naively that I could write this book in 6 months. In the end, it took me more than 4 years, during which I literally retreated into my home behind a walled garden and plunged the depths. What a passage. From such beginnings, this book was born. I had little idea that day where the writing of it would take me. Often, I think, we think we've handled challenges in our lives, then we find ourselves doing the same stupid things over and over again. I certainly have. And then we wonder why. Why does one or another part of our life never seem to come right? Why do we feel helpless to change that? Or maybe we've come to a place of relative comfort, as I had. We have wonderful friends and a loving family and many blessings to celebrate. Yet without ever articulating it, even to myself, I'd come to feel that, like a magic carpet on which I could ride, the good life I'd created would continue to keep me safe forever. Then something unexpected occurs. Maybe somebody dies, or flashes of long-forgotten memories come to the surface, or perhaps we get sick or badly injured. Badly injured is what happened to me. Suddenly, the magic carpet is ripped out from under us, and we find ourselves tumbling through the sky, and we wonder with a strange detachment if it's going to kill us. In my case, it was not just revisiting lost memories that brought such things to the surface when I began to write Love Affair. Something mysterious within me had awakened. I could not name it, but it seemed to be present with me day and night. An unseen threat, a benevolent guide, a dark shadow from my past, I don't know. When my work on the book began, I did not realize that I had access to masses of research materials inherited on the deaths of my father, my mother, their parents, and our ancestors before them. I'd never looked at most of them: diaries, medical records, Itineraries, thousands of photographs, dozens of reels of 8mm and 16mm film documenting my family's lives and revealing much about my parents and their ancestors, especially on my father's side. Some had only come into my hands 2 years before, when, as a consequence of his stepfather's death, my mother's private papers, personal notes, letters, books, and journals were sent to me by his lawyers. The letters, many yellow at the edges, had been dutifully stuffed back into envelopes after having been opened. They were tied with string or held together by rubber bands long past their use-by date, and when I tried to slide them off, some disintegrated in my hands. Some were written long before I was born. They told of frustration, love, excitement, despair, in the lives of those who wrote them, my family. The papers, including the letters, were often so descriptive that together with my father's itineraries and the reports of dozens of people whom I interviewed for the book, the task of pinpointing when and where various events took place turned out to be a lot easier than I'd anticipated. I began by reading and dating them according to the postmark. Going through all of these materials took me back more than a century, plunged me into another time, another world, and as I read, vivid memories began to surface. Smells and sounds and fragments of events and places. Slowly, I began to pull them all together. It felt like I was trying to mend a broken mirror or staring at the jumbled pieces of a giant jigsaw puzzle. Gradually, I began to gaze into that puzzle, and then to live it. As this happened, my whole life was turned upside down. I had looked upon the task of writing this book as a kind of mechanical process of gathering together intricate and demanding information, creating a certain order out of it, and producing a narrative of events telling what had happened to me and my family. But the more I came to live in this broken mirror world, the more I came to face with the shattering depths of my own life and the lives of others who make up this story. My parents, their parents before them, and back and back. Intricate patterns emerged, variations on bloodline themes as one generation gave birth to the next. They were unmistakable. If in the end I have learned only one thing from the years that I've lived between my birth and my father's death, it is this. We are, each one of us, perpetrator and victim, the rapist and the raped, the torturer and the tortured. For us to become who at the core of our being we truly are, somehow we must be willing to dive into our own darkness and to illuminate it. You see, I think darkness longs for light to bring it comfort, and light is drawn to darkness to deepen its compassion and reveal its value. It's my prayer that the writing of Love Affair brings comfort and peace to all who participated in the story it tells, but I hope, too, that the book becomes a reassurance to anyone reading it who has had to live a life against all odds and often wondered if it can be done. I know now that it can, but then that's yet another story.